Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Canadian jazz drummer and busy jazz cat Ernesto Cervini. This very busy guy is not only a musician, he runs Orange Grove Publicity and promotes plenty of promising and talented Canadian jazz talent. He spoke about his latest album, Abundance, with his band Turbopop, and a new CD with his band Myriad 3 called Vera. He spoke about both of these releases, what's going on now and into the future. So please, get to know Ernesto, his projects, and dig this interview, my friends.
So, Ernesto, thanks for taking a minute to talk about the new album. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for taking a moment for me.
Absolutely, yeah. And I do want to talk to you about this album. Again, it's another great album, and it almost seems like you picked up from where you left off with Rev, with Abundance. So talk to me about this album. You got original compositions, you got a great lineup. Talk to me about how you feel about this album.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that it's kind of picking up right where it left off, because the two albums were actually recorded at the same session. Okay. So it literally is just, it's kind of, they're kind of sibling albums. I'm really happy with, the tunes that are on there, and I think the band sounds, everyone, we had just come off tour, so everyone was having a lot of fun, and all the music was kind of hitting the right spots. Yeah, and I'm really excited about the album title and the album art and all that stuff as well, because I feel like it really conveys what I want to convey.
It's a collection of 8 songs, and you got a great lineup. You got Tara Davidson, Joel Fromm, and it seems like you have everybody that you're used to playing with, like obviously since it was off the other album. What is it about you guys that gels so well?
That's a great question. I think, first of all, I think everyone in that band, we all really like each other. We get along really, really well. And there's a lot of mutual respect, and we get a lot of enjoyment playing with each other. So I think that's a big one, and myself and Joel and Adrian Ferrugia and Dan Loomis, we played as a quartet for, it's probably been about 10 years now, maybe even a little more than 10 years since we started playing together. So that core group has been playing together forever. And then when I decided to expand the group and call it Turbopop and add Tara Davidson and William Karn, I was a little hesitant. I wanted to make sure I found the right people who could gel with us four crazy guys, musically and personally, and Tara and William fit in amazing. It was great, and so I feel like you can hear that on all three of the albums. There's just a lot of joy. Nobody's trying to step on anybody else, and everybody's listening really carefully, and we're all going for it, but never at the expense of anybody else. And it's just a lot of fun. It's just really a lot of fun.
That's the key, man. And so you have some personal songs. You have one for your late grandfather, Gramps. And then I didn't realize you were, maybe we did talk about baseball before. We could have brought up the Toronto Royals thing, but you have a couple, you have a song for Cito Gaston on here. Talk to me about those songs.
So Gramps, I wrote that for my grandfather a while ago when he was going through a bit of a tough period with his health. So I wrote this ballad for him, and then I actually arranged it for the band, and then we played it for the first time we ever played it. He happened to pass away that day. We had a performance, we had a big gig in Toronto, and then I found out in that morning that he had passed away. I went and spent time with my family and everything, but then, we had this gig and we had to do it, and I just so happened to have prepared that song. He was sick, so I knew something was coming, so I had arranged that song for Turbopop, and then, sure enough, we played it that night for him. I think he passed, it must have been 3 years ago now. And then song for Cito. So Cito Gaston was the manager of the Blue Jays when they won their 2 World Series. And then he got fired, I think, in 95. And then he came back and was the manager again. I think the Blue Jays like to fire their managers and then bring them back again. They did it with John Gibbons as well. He came back and managed for another 5 or 6 years in the early 2000s. And so I wrote that song after having seen a J game, going to the J game with a friend, I was kind of just thinking about how much I loved him as a human being. The Blue Jays, when they won their World Series, I was 10 and 11. So it was a good time to have like some winning sports happening in your city. Those were pretty powerful years because I was really into, I've always been really into sports, but I was really into baseball. So I wanted to do something to capture the kind of my triumphant memories of the Blue Jays, because at the time when I wrote it, which was in around 2008, 2010, something like that, the Jays had been bad for a number of years. And so it was kind of my way of capturing my memories of when they weren't bad, and there was something to cheer for.
Absolutely. I remember Joe Carter being such a big part of that team, and I don't know why, but he lives here in the Kansas City area, and I remember after they won, they had some charity game and he was here, and I was like, why is Joe Carter here? Anyway, I just thought that was weird.
Yeah, and he was my favorite. He was my favorite Blue Jay before he hit the home run. From I think they got him in 90 or 91. He was my favorite Blue Jay, and then to watch to watch your team win a World Series, it's incredible. It's very, very exciting, and you remember those players forever.
Well, I will tell you one thing. My son is kind of a quasi Cubs fan, and I was watching that game yesterday, and I was just thinking about those 2 years that Kansas City spent watching it. It is so stressful. And for the Royals, it was always late inning. So
right.
I'm so relieved because this playoff thing this year is going to be crazy. And I'm just relieved we're not one of the cities. As much as I would like to see the Royals in it, you just knew when you were going into it, you were getting ready like them because it was going to be a hell of a ride.
Yeah, absolutely. It always is. That's the fun thing about sports, and I love, for me, being a professional musician, I love having that other thing that I can escape. I guess it's what everyone does, right? You have your career, and then you have these hobbies, and for me, it's watching sports, and I'm a diehard Toronto fan, so the Leafs and the Raptors and the Jays, and it's good stuff.
So what is next for you? And I know you got Orange Grove. I know you're very busy. You're promoting. Your hands are in a lot of music pots. But what's the future look like?
So I have another band called Myriad 3. That's a collective, and we just released an album as well. So we're going to Europe in a couple weeks to tour. And then Turbopop's going to be touring across Canada in November to celebrate the new album, to celebrate Abundance. And then after that, I have a bunch of other things. I'm in another saxophone, bass, and drums trio called Toontown, and we're going to record in the fall. And then I'm actually going to be touring Europe with Joel Fromm in the spring in his trio. So there's a bunch of things on the horizon. And with Turbopop, I'm not sure. We've released 3 albums in the past, 4 years. I'm thinking about starting to write some new music for the band. I have another large-scale project that I'm starting to work on. So there's a lot going on, and I don't know exactly what order it's going to come out in, but there'll be lots more music for sure.
Absolutely. It's funny. I just remembered that you were in Myriad 3, and I got the new album, and I love it. And the funny thing about you saying going to Europe is, every time I see the artwork on there and I think about it, in my time in Europe, it fits the vibe of Europe. Totally has that. You know what I'm saying? So talk to me a little bit about this album. What is your aim with the sound of this? Now, and I'm going to segue into this way. There's a lot of musicians that kind of try to fuse different genres because it sells better or it satiates an artistic urge that they have. What is it about you and Myriad 3 that makes it the sound that it is?
I think the biggest thing is that because it's a collective, we're 3 pretty different people with pretty different musical tastes. Our sound is kind of influenced by all of those things always, all at the same time. The way we work is it's a very democratic band. So when we bring in a song, as soon as we bring in a song, it becomes a Myriad song. So if it's Dan's song or it's Chris's song or it's my song, it's immediately our song, and then we all have input into how we're going to arrange it, what we're going to do, which is very different from Turbopop. I mean, I welcome the other people's opinions, of course, but at the end of the day, most of the stuff is my arrangements, and I pick the tunes. But in Myriad, it's all everyone. It's such a collective that the three of us are cooperating on everything. So I think that's a big part of what makes our sound unique, is that it's coming from all three of us, and it's evolved as our tastes have evolved. As we've hung out more together, our sound has kind of coalesced a little bit and found a more tight focus, because we have influenced each other just by being around each other a lot. When we started the band, we were bringing in tunes that we had written for whatever. We had written for other bands, or we had just written with no band in mind. Songs that we had written. But now I'll start writing a song, and I'll get a little ways into it, and I start going, oh, this is a Myriad 3 tune. That's who I'm picturing. That's who I want. That's how I want it to sound. So I think that's kind of a big part of it. I mean, we've never really discussed changing our sound to try and fit any sort of genre or to make it sellable. It's just about making music, I think.
I like that. That's the perfect way of wrapping it up and wrapping everything up that we've just talked about. So, Ernesto, thank you for taking some time out. Thank you for all the music. I love the artist. Your label's beautiful, and everybody I talk to and everything you do is sparkling. So I appreciate it, man.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it as well.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Canada, America, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Ernesto for his class, his music, his talent, and his stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.